Hello. How are you all today? I'm sorry I don't have a book asset. Hi Leah. Hi Bryant. Hello Jayway. Hi. I'm sorry I don't have like a reading book asset, unfortunately. But I got my book in my hands right here. We're reading the Brothers Grimm today. For story time. Hee. I thought I'd turn off the BGM because it would be over top of my my reading. So hi Zach, hello Krika Gamer. So I thought we start reading. So let me see. Table of contents. Let me see which one we can read. I'm trying to see which one we could read. Trying to remember the one that I really like. It's supposed to be... here it is. Alelairao. Roughly translated in German, it means many furs. So, this one is called Alelairao. Let me get a sip of water. Let me adjust my mic too, so you guys can hear me. Because I gotta be near the mic. There we go. And then the pop filter has to be there. There once was a king whose wife had golden hair and was altogether so beautiful that her equal was not to be found in the world. It happened that she fell ill, and when she felt she must soon die, she called the king and said, "If you marry again after my death, take no one who is not as beautiful as I have been, nor who has not golden hair like mine, and this you must promise me." After the king had made a promise, she closed her eyes and soon died. For a long time, the king would not be comforted, and thought not of taking a second wife. But his counselors said at last that he must marry again. Then messengers were sent far and wide to seek such a bride as soon as should be as beautiful as the late queen. But there was no one to be found in the whole world so beautiful, and with such golden hair. So the messengers returned home without accomplishing anything. Now the king had a daughter who was just as beautiful as her dead mother, and had also the same golden hair. And, as she grew up, the king saw how like she was to his lost wife. He fell passionately in love with her and told his counselors, "I am going to marry my daughter, for she is the living image of my dead wife, and I'll never find another like her." The counselors were horrified. "A father cannot marry his daughter," they said. "It is forbidden by God. No good can come of such a sin, and the whole kingdom will be dragged down to ruin with you." The daughter was even more terrified when she heard of her father's decision, but hoped yet to turn him from his intentions. So she said to him, "Before I fulfill your wish, I must first have 3 dresses. One as gold as the sun, another as silver as the moon, and a third as shining as the stars. Further, I desire a cloak composed of thousands of skins and hides, and to which every beast in your kingdom must contribute a portion of his skin." The princess thought this would be impossible to do, and so she should reclaim her father from his intention. But the king would not give it up, and the cleverest maiden in his kingdom had to weave the 3 dresses, one as gold as the sun, a second as silver as the moon, and a third as shining as the stars, while his huntsman had to catch all the beasts in the whole kingdom, and from each take a piece of his skin, wherewith a mantle of 1,000 pieces was made. At length, when all was ready, the king let the mantle be fetched, and spreading it before him, said, "Tomorrow shall be the wedding day." When the king's daughter now saw that there was no hope left of turning her father from his resolve, she determined to flee away. In the night, while all slept, she got up and took 3 of her treasures, a golden ring, a spinning wheel, and a gold reel. She also put in a nutshell the 3 dresses of the sun, moon, and stars, and putting on the mantle of all skins. Hold on. Had to pop my neck. She dyed her hands and face black with soot. Then, commending herself to God, she set off and traveled the whole night till she came to a large wood, where, feeling very tired, she took refuge in a hollow tree and went to sleep. The sun arose, and she still slept and slept on till it was again far into the morning. Then it happened that the king who owned this forest came to hunt in it. As soon as his dogs ran to the tree, they snapped about it, barked and growled, so that the king said to his huntsman, "See what wild animals it is that is concealed there." The hunters obeyed his orders, and when they returned, they said, "In that hollow lies a wonderful creature whose like we have never seen before. Its skin is composed of 1,000 different colors, but it lies quiet, and sleep." The king said, "Try if you can catch it alive, and then bind it to a carriage, and we will take it with us." Yes, it's a story stream. Yes. As soon as the hunters caught hold of the maiden, she awoke full of terror and called out to them, "I am a poor child, forsaken by both father and mother. Pray pity me and take me with you." I'm sorry if my mouth or eyes are not open while I read. They named her Alelairao because of her mantle, and took her home with them to serve in the kitchen and rake out the ashes. They went to the royal palace, and there they showed her a little stable under the step where no daylight could enter. Let me get a drink. And told her she could live and sleep there. Afterwards, she went into the kitchen, and there she had to carry water and wood to make the fire, to pluck the fowls, to peel the vegetables, to rake out the ashes, and to do all manner of dirty work. Here for a length of time Alelairao lived wretchedly, but it happened once that a feast was held in the palace, and she could ask the cook, "May I go and look on for a little while?" I will place myself just outside the door. The cook said yes, but in half an hour's time you must return and rake out the ashes. Alelairao took an oil lamp and going to her stable, put off the gown of skins and washed the soot from her face and hands so that her real beauty was displayed. Then she opened her nut and took out the dresses, which shone as the sun, and as soon as she was ready, she went up to the ballroom, where everyone made way for her, supposing that she was certainly some princess. Well, they weren't wrong. She was a princess. The king himself soon came up to her, and taking her hand, danced with her, thinking the while in his heart that he had never seen anyone like her. As soon as the dance was finished, she curtsied, and before the king could look around, she had disappeared, and nobody knew whether. The watchmen also at the gates were called in question, but they had not seen her. She had run back to her stable, and having quickly taken off her dress, had again blackened her face and hands, and put on the dress of all skins, and became Alelairao once more. As soon as she went into the kitchen to do her work in sweeping up the ashes, the cook said, "Let that be for once till the morning, and cook the king's supper for me instead, while I go upstairs to have a peep. But mind you do not let one of your hairs fall in, or you will get nothing to eat for the future." So saying, he went away, and Alelairao cooked the king's supper, making some soup as good as she possibly could. And when it was ready, she went into the stable and fetched her gold ring and laid it in the dish. When the dance was at an end, the king ordered for his supper to be brought, which, when he had tasted, he thought he had never eaten anything so nice before. Just as he nearly finished, he saw a gold ring at the bottom, and, not being able to imagine how it came there, he commanded the cook to be brought before him. The cook was terrified when he heard this order, and said to Alelairao, "Are you certain you did not let a hair fall into the soup? For if it is so, you will catch a beating." Then he came before the king, who asked who had cooked the supper, and he answered, "I did." But the king said, "That is not true, for it is of a much better kind and much better cooked than usual." Then the cook said, "I must confess that not I, but Alelairao cooked it." So the king commanded that she be brought up. When Alelairao came, the king asked, "Who are you?" "I am a poor child without a father nor mother," she replied. "Why did you come to my palace?" Then inquired the king. "I am good for nothing else but to have the boots thrown at my head," she said. The king asked again, "Where did you get this ring, then, which was in the soup?" Alelairao said, "I know nothing of it." And as she would say no more, she was at last sent away. After a time, there was another ball, and Alelairao asked the cook's permission to go again and look on, and he consented, and told her, "Return here in half an hour to cook for the king again, the same soup which he liked so much before." Alelairao ran into the stable, and washing herself quickly, took out of the shell the dress which was silver as the moon, and put it on. Then she went up to the ballroom and appeared like a princess, and the king, stepping up to her, was very glad to see her again. And as the dancing was just begun, they joined it. But as soon as it was over, his partner disappeared so quickly that the king did not notice where she went. She ran to her stable and changed her garments again, and then went into the kitchen to make the soup. While the cook was upstairs, she fetched the golden spinning wheel and put it in the tureen, so that the soup was served up with it. Afterwards, it was brought before the king, who ate it and found it tasted good. As the former and the cook was called, who was obliged to confess again that Alerairao had made it. Alerairao was accordingly taken before the king, but she repeated that she had before said that she was of no use, but to have the boots thrown at her, and that she knew nothing of the gold spinning wheel. Not long afterward, a third fiat was given by the king, at which everything went as before. The cook said Alerairao went. She asked leave to go. You are certainly a witch, and always put something in the soup which makes it taste better than mine. Also, hello, Jerry. And hello, Jay-Way. Let me get a drink. I'm sorry you're under the weather, sweetie. And I'm sorry I'm not playing a game like I usually am. I am reading a story. I'm reading some stories today. I hope that's alright. Still, since you beg so hard, you shall go at the usual time. This time, she put on the dress shining as the stars, and stepped with it into the ballroom. The king danced again with her, and thought he had never seen any maiden so beautiful. And when the dance went on, he slipped the gold ring onto her finger without her perceiving it, and told the musicians to prolong the time. When at last it ended, he would have kept fast hold of her hand, but she tore herself away and sprang so quickly in among the people that she disappeared from his sight. Aleraira ran as well as she could back to her stable, but she had stayed over and above the half hour, and she had not time to pull off her beautiful dress, but was obliged to throw over it her cloak of skins. She did not either quite finish the blackening of her skin, but left one finger white. Then she ran into the kitchen, cooked the soup for the king, and put it in the reel while the cook stayed upstairs. Afterwards, when the king found the reel at the bottom of his soup, he summoned Alerairao, and perceived at once her white finger, and the ring which he had put on it during the dance. He took her by the hand and held her fast, and when she tried to force herself from him and run away, her cloak of skins fell partly off, and the starry dress was displayed to view. The king then pulled the cloak wholly off, and down came her golden hair, and there she stood in all her beauty, and could no longer conceal herself. As soon then as the soot and ashes were washed off her face, she stood up and appeared more beautiful than anyone could conceive possible on earth. But the king said to her, "You are my dear bride, and we will never separate from each other." Thereupon was the wedding celebrated, and they lived happily to the end of their lives. And that one was the story of Alerairao, or as in German, the coat of many furs. Let's see. It's a good story, but it's also a little sad. Oh, Little Red Riding Hood's a good one. But then, trying to look for the other one. Thanks, Sam. And thank you, J-Way. Trying to find one. I know of one. I don't know if it's in this book, though. Yeah, stories really help. I like reading some of these old stories. These are actually the non-watered down versions. I'm trying to find it. I don't know if it's in this book, though. That's the problem. Yep, the real stories. These are like the OG stories. Ah, here it is. Snow White and Red Rose. There we go. By the way, should I use the BGM for this? Just turn it down a bit. Alrighty. Alright. Now I gotta get back to the page. I mean, I like my BGM too, but I want you all to be able to hear me. Alright. Let me also turn it down a bit more. Hey, back V! We're about to start the next story. It's Snow White and Red Rose. Actually, let me do this really quick. Let me put down what stories we've read. That way it's easier for you guys to remember what stories we've read. I'm trying to remember. Ah, there it is. Let me get the thing up. Hello, Andre. Let's see. Hi, Reeb. We're doing story time today. Also, let me change the color of this because it's not gonna... There we go. Now we go to 425. There we go. This one is Snow White and Red Rose. There once was... hold on. There once was a poor widow who lived alone in her hut with her 2 children, who were called Snow White and Rose Red, because they were like the flowers which blossomed on 2 rose bushes, which grew before the cottage. But they were 2 as pious, good, industrious, and amiable children as they were in the world. Only Snow White was more quiet and gentle than Rose Red. For Rose Red would run and jump about the meadows, seeking flowers and catching butterflies, while Snow White sat at home, helping her mother to keep house or reading to her if there was nothing else to do. The 2 children loved one another dearly and always walked hand in hand when they went out together, and even when they talked of it, they agreed that they would never separate from each other, and that whatever one had, the other should share. Often they ran deep into the forest and gathered wild berries. But no beast ever harmed them, for the hare would eat cauliflowers out of their hands. The fawn would graze at their side. The goats would frisk about them in play, and the birds remained perched on the boughs, singing as if nobody were near. No accident ever befell them, and if they stayed late in the forest and the night came upon them, they used to lie down on the moss and sleep till morning. And because their mother knew they would do so, she felt no concern about them. One time, when they had thus passed the night in the forest, and the dawn of morning awoke them, they saw a beautiful child dressed in shining white sitting near their couch. She got up and looked at them kindly, but without saying anything, she went into the forest. And when the children looked around, they saw that where they had slept was close to the edge of a pit. Into which they would have certainly fallen, had they walked a couple of steps further in the dark. Their mother told them the figure they had seen was doubtless the good angel who watches over children. Snow White and Rose Red kept their mother's cottage so clean that it was a pleasure to enter it. Every morning in the summertime, Rose Red would first put the house in order and then gather a nosegay for her mother, in which she always placed a bud from each rose tree. Every winter's morning, Snow White would light the fire and put the kettle on to boil. And although the kettle was made of copper, it yet shone like gold, because it was scoured so well in the evenings. When the flakes of snow were falling, the mother would say, "Go, Snow White," and bolt the door. And then they used to sit down on the hearth, and the mother would put on her spectacles and read out of a great book, while her children sat spinning. "Hello, Johnny Cat!" By their side, too, laid a little lamb, and on a perch behind them a little white dove reposed with her head under her wing. One evening, when they were thus sitting comfortably together, there came a knock at the door, as if somebody wished to come in. "Make haste, Rose Red," cried her mother. "Make haste and open the door. Perhaps there is some traveler outside who needs shelter." So Rose Red went and drew the bolt and opened the door. expecting to see some poor man outside. But instead, a great fat bear poked his black head in. Rose Red shrieked out and ran back. The little lamb bleated. The dove fluttered on her perch, and Snow White hid herself behind her mother's bed. The bear, however, began to speak and said, "Be not afraid. I will do you no harm. But I am half frozen and wish to come in and warm myself. I need a drink." "Poor bear," cried the mother. "Come in and lie down before the fire, but take care you do not burn your skin." And then she continued, "Come here, Rose Red and Snow White. The bear will not harm you. He means honorably." So they both came back, and by degrees the lamb too, and the dove overcame their fears and welcomed the rough visitor. "You children," said the bear before he entered, "come and knock the snow off my coat." And they fetched their brooms and swept him clean. Then he stretched himself before the fire and grumbled out his satisfaction. And in a little while the children became familiar enough to play tricks with the unwieldy animal. They pulled his long shaggy skin, set their feet upon his back, and rolled him to and fro, and even ventured to beat him with a hazel stick, laughing when he grumbled. The bear bore all their tricks good-temperedly, and if they hit too hard, he cried out, "Leave me my life, you children, Snow White and Rose Red, or you'll never wed." When bedtime came and the others were gone, the mother said to the bear, "You may sleep here on the hearth if you like, and then you will be safely protected from the cold and bad weather." As soon as day broke, the two children let the bear out again, and he trotted away over the snow, and never afterwards. He came every evening at a certain hour. He would lie down on the hearth and allow the children to play with him as much as they liked, till by degrees they became so accustomed to him that the door was left unbolted till their black friend arrived. But as soon as spring returned and everything out of doors was green again, the bear one morning told Snow White that he must leave her and could not return during the whole summer. "Where are you going, then, Miss Dear Bear?" asked Snow White. "I am obligated to go into the forest and guard my treasures from the evil dwarfs. For in winter, when the ground is hard, they are obligated to keep in their holes and cannot work through. But now, since the sun has thawed the earth and warmed it, the dwarfs pierce through and steal all they can find. And what has once passed into their hands and gets concealed by them in their caves, it is not easy brought to light." Snow White, however, was very sad at the departure of the bear, and opened the door so hastily that when he pressed through it, he left behind on the sick a piece of his hairy coat. And though the hole which was made in his coat, Snow White fancied she saw the glittering of gold. But she was not quite certain of it. The bear, however, ran hastily away, and was soon hidden behind the trees. "Hello, Davis!" Some time afterwards, the mother sent the children into the wood to gather sticks. And while doing so, they came to a tree which was laying across the path, on the trunk of which something kept bobbing up and down from the grass, and they could not imagine what it was. They came nearer. They saw a dwarf with an old wrinkled face and a snow-white beard, a yard long. The end of this beard was fixed in a split of the tree, and the little man kept jumping about like a dog tied by a chain. Sorry, I had to take a breath. For he did not know how to free himself. He glared at the maidens with his fiery red eyes and exclaimed, "Why do you stand there? Are you going to pass without offering me any assistance?" "What have you done, little man?" asked Rose Red. "You stupid gaping goose," exclaimed he. I wanted to have split the tree in order to get a little wood for my kitchen. For the little wood which we use is soon burnt up with great logs, not like what you rough, greedy people devour. I had driven the wedge in properly, and everything was going on well, when the smooth wood flew upwards, and the tree closed so suddenly together that I could not draw my beautiful beard out, and here it sticks, and I cannot get away. There, don't laugh, you milk-faced things. Are you dumbfounded?" Oh, it's the Brothers Grimm. We're reading Brothers Grimm fairy tales today. Right now I'm reading Snow White and Rose Red. The children took all the pains they could pull the dwarf's beard out, but without success. "I will run and fetch some help," cried Rose Red at length. "Crack-brained sheep's head that you are," snarled the dwarf. Thank you, Jamama. Let me also take a sip of a drink. Getting the free audiobook experience? I'm trying. I'm doing my best. What are you going to call other people for? You are too many for me. Can you think of nothing else?" "Don't be impatient," replied Snow White. "I have thought of something." And pulling her scissors out of her pocket, she cut off the end of the beard. As soon as the dwarf found himself at liberty, he snatched up his sack, which lay between the roots of the tree, filled with gold, and throwing it over his shoulder, marched off, grumbling and groaning and crying, "Stupid people, to cut off a piece of my beautiful beard! Plague take you!" And away he went without once looking at the children. Some time afterwards, Snow White and Rose Red went a-fishing. And as they neared the pond, they saw something like a great locust hopping about on the bank, as if going to jump into the water. They ran up and recognized the dwarf. "What are you after?" asked Rose Red. "You will fall into the water." "What are you at?" "You will fall into the water." "I am not quite such a simpleton as that," replied the dwarf. "But do you not see this fish will put me in?" The little man had been sitting there angling, and unfortunately the wind had entangled his beard with the fishing line. And so, when a great fish bit at the line, the strength of the weak little fellow was not able to draw it out, and the fish had the best of the struggle. The dwarf held on by the reeds and rushes which grew near, but to no purpose, for the fish pulled him where it liked, and he must soon have been drawn into the pond. Luckily, just then the two maidens arrived and tried to release the beard of the dwarf from the fishing line, but both were too closely entangled for it to be done, so the maiden pulled out her scissors again and cut off another piece of the beard. When the dwarf saw this done, he was in a great rage and exclaimed, You donkey! That is the way to disfigure my face? Was it not enough to cut it once? But you must now take away the best part of my fine beard. I dare not show myself again now to my own people. I wish you had run the soles off your boots before you had come here. So saying, he took up a bag of pearls, which had laid among the rushes, and without speaking another word, slipped off and disappeared behind a stone. Not many days after this adventure, it chanced that the mother sent the two maidens to the next town to buy thread, needles, and pins, laces, and ribbons. Their road passed over a common, on which here and there great pieces of rock were laying about. Just over their heads they saw a great bird flying around, and every now and then dropping lower and lower, till at last it flew down behind a rock. Immediately afterwards they heard a piercing shriek, and running up they saw with affright that the eagle had caught their old acquaintance, the dwarf, and was trying to carry him off. Sorry, I had to pop my neck again. Sometimes looking down can get you, and I need a drink. The compassionate children thereupon laid hold of the little man and held him fast till the bird gave up the struggle and flew off. As soon then as the dwarf had recovered from his fright, he exclaimed in a squeaking voice, "Could you not hold me more gently? You have seized my fine brown coat in such a manner that it is all torn and full of holes. Meddling and interfering rubbish that you are." With these words, he shouldered a bag full of precious stones and slipped away to his cave among the rocks. The maidens were now accustomed to his ingratitude, and so they walked on to the town and transacted their business there. Hello, Abaddon! Coming home, they returned over the same common, and unawares walked upon to a certain clean spot on which the dwarf had shaken out his bag of precious stones, thinking nobody was near. The sun was shining, and the bright stones glittered in its beams and displayed such a variety of colors that the two maidens stopped to admire them. What are you standing there gaping for?" asked the dwarf. While his face grew as red as copper with rage, he was continuing to abuse the poor maidens, when a loud roaring noise was heard, and presently a great black bear came rolling out of the forest. The dwarf jumped up terrified, but he could not gain his retreat before the bear overtook him. Thereupon he cried out, "Spare me, my dear Lord Bear! I will give you all my treasures. See these beautiful precious stones which lie here. Only give me my life, for what you have to fear from me, a little weak fellow like me. You cannot touch me with your great teeth. There are two wicked girls. Take them. They would make nice morsels, as fat as young quails. Eat them for heaven's sake." The bear, however, without troubling himself to speak, gave the bad-hearted dwarf a single blow with his paw, and he never stirred after. The maidens were going to run away, but the bear called after them, "Snow White and Rose Red, fear not. Wait a bit, and I will accompany you." They recognized his voice and stopped, and when the bear came, his rough coat suddenly fell off, and he stood up, a tall man dressed entirely in gold. "I am a king's son," he said, "and I was condemned by the wicked dwarf who stole all my treasures to wander about in this forest in the form of a bear till his death released me. Now he has received his well-deserved punishment." Then they went home, and Snow White was married to the prince, and Rose Red to his brother, with whom they shared the immense treasure which the dwarf had collected. The old mother also lived for many years happily with her 2 children, and the rose trees which had stood before their cottage were planted now before the palace, and produced every year beautiful red and white roses. And that was the story of Snow White and Rose Red. Let me update the story list. Let me just also do this. That one is not technically a Disney adaptation. That's Snow White and Rose Red. It's like almost, it's similar to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but it's vastly different. There are people who believe that Snow White and Rose Red is the same Snow White as in the book Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but they're not. They're 2 different people. Also, hello, Tap Out. I also need a drink. I need a drink. So what did you all think of that book? It's an interesting story, to be sure. It's a very interesting story. I really like it. Hello there. It is an interesting story. I read my aunt actually read me the story a long time ago. My aunt, Faye Auntie, read me the story a very, very long time ago. 6 out of 10 got confused. I mean, you did just get here early. You did get here a little late, why not? So it makes sense. It makes sense if you got a little confused since you got here a little late. So it's no worries. Let me see. What other story? Let's see. What other story can I read you? I think you all know Little Red Riding Hood, so I think that would be good for you guys. I think Little Red Riding Hood would be a very good story to read you guys, since you all know that one. Once upon a time, there lived a sweet little girl who was beloved by everyone who saw her. But her grandmother was so excessively fond of her that she never knew when to give the child enough. One day, the grandmother presented the little girl with a red velvet hood, and as it fitted her very well, she would never wear anything else, and so she was called Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Riding Hood, here is a piece of nice meat and a bottle of wine. Take these to your grandmother. She is ill and weak and will relish them. Make haste before she gets up. Go quietly and carefully, and do not run, lest you should fall and break the bottle, and then your grandmother will get nothing. When you go into her room, do not forget to say, 'Good morning,' and do not look about in all the corners." "I will do everything as you wish," replied Little Red Riding Hood. Taking her mother's hand, the grandmother dwelt far away in the wood, half an hour's walk from the village, and as Little Red Riding Hood entered among the trees, she met a wolf, but she did not know what a malicious beast it was, and so she was not at all afraid. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," he said. "Many thanks, Wolf," she said. "Whither away so early, Little Red Riding Hood?" To my grandmother's, she replied. What are you carrying under your apron? Meat and wine, she answered. Yesterday we baked the meat that grandmother, who is ill and weak, might have something nice and strengthening. Where does your grandmother live? Asked the wolf. A good quarter of an hour's walk further in the forest. The cottage stands under three great oak trees. Near it, some nut bushes, by which you will easily know it. But the wolf thought to himself, she is a nice tender thing, and will taste better than the old woman. I must act craftily, that I may snap them both up. Presently he came up again to Little Red Riding Hood, and said, Just look at the beautiful flowers which grow around you. Why do you not look about you? I believe you don't hear how beautifully the birds sing. You walk on as if you were going to school. See how merry everything is around you in the forest. So Little Red Riding Hood opened her eyes, and when she saw how the sunbeams glanced and danced through the trees, and what splendid flowers were blooming in her path, she thought, if I take my grandmother a fresh bouquet, she will be very pleased. And it is so very early that I can, even then, get there in good time. And running into the forest, she looked about for flowers, but when she had once begun, she did not know how to leave off, and kept going deeper and deeper among the trees in search of some more beautiful flowers. The wolf, however, ran straight to the house of the old grandmother and knocked at the door. Oh, itchy eye. Itchy eye. Who's there? Asked the old lady. Only Little Red Riding Hood bringing you some meat and wine. Please open the door, replied the wolf. Lift up the latch, cried the grandmother. I am too weak to get up. So the wolf lifted the latch, and the door flew open, and jumping without a word on the bed, he gobbled up the poor old lady. Then he put on her clothes and tied her cap over his head, got into the bed, and drew the blankets over him. All this time Little Red Riding Hood was still gathering flowers. And when he had plucked as many as he could carry, she remembered her grandmother, and made haste to the cottage. She wondered very much to see the door wide open, and when she got into the room, she began to feel very ill, and exclaimed, How sad I feel! I wish I had not come today. Then she said, Good morning, but received no answer. She went up to the bed and drew back the curtains, and there lay her grandmother, as she thought, with the cap drawn over her eyes, looking very fiercely. I mean, so the book I'm reading from is the original, Brothers Grimm fairy tales. So they're basically not the sanitized versions. So basically these are like the originals, like the OG. So yeah. So yeah, be prepared. I'm probably gonna read Cinderella next. This book is very long. Hello, Papita! Hi! We're reading some Brothers Grimm fairy tales today. I don't know how many I should do because these are kind of very long. And in all honesty, I don't know how much you guys would prefer me to do this kind of I don't know how many people would like me to read for this long. It's up to me. I was mesmerized by how the wolf must be disguised. must be disguising his voice. He probably has to go like, "Arsh, oh dear." You're enjoying it? Yay! I'll try to read maybe one or two more. I'll try to read maybe like another one and maybe two more. Oh. Gotta get back. Oh, grandmother, what great ears you have. The better to hear you with, was the reply. And what great eyes you have. The better to see with. And what great hands you have. The better to touch you with. But grandmother, what great teeth you have. The better to eat you with. And scarcely were the words out of his mouth when the wolf made a spring out of bed and swallowed up poor little Red Riding Hood. As soon as the wolf had thus satisfied his appetite, he laid himself down again in the bed and began to snore very loudly. A huntsman passing by overheard him and thought, "How loudly the old woman snores. He must see if she wants anything." So he stepped into the cottage, and when he came to the bed, he saw the wolf lying in it. "What? Do I find you here, you old sinner? I have long sought you," he exclaimed, taking aim with his gun. Then, just as he was about to fire, it occurred to him that the wolf might have devoured the grandmother, and that he might still save her. So instead of firing, he took a pair of scissors and began to cut open the belly of the sleeping wolf. After 2 snips, he saw a little Red Riding Hood, and after 2 more snips, the little girl sprang out crying, "Oh, how frightened I have been! It was so dark inside the wolf." And then the old grandmother came out, also alive, but scarcely able to breathe. Little Red Riding Hood ran outside and found some big stones, and they put them in the wolf's belly. When he woke up, he tried to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed and fell dead. Then all 3 were happy. The huntsman skinned the wolf and took the skin, and the grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine. Little Red Riding Hood had brought and felt better at once. As for Little Red Riding Hood, she said to herself, "I will never again leave the path and run into the woods when my mother has told me not to." Some folks say that this story is not the true one, but that one day, when Red Riding Hood was taking some baked meats to her grandmother's, a wolf met her and wanted to lead her astray. But she went straight on and told her grandmother that she had met a wolf who wished her good day. But he looked so wickedly out of his great eyes, as if he would have eaten her had she not been on the high road. So the grandmother said, "Let us shut the door, that he may not enter." Soon afterwards came the wolf, who knocked and exclaimed, "I am Red Riding Hood, grandmother. I bring you some roast meat." But they kept quiet still, and did not open the door. So the wolf, creeping several times around the house, at last jumped on the roof, intending to wait till Little Red Riding Hood went home in the evening, and then to sneak after her and devour her in the darkness. The old woman, however, saw all that the rascal intended, and as there stood before the door a great stone, "Trot," she said to Little Red Riding Hood, "take this pail, child. Yesterday I boiled some sausages in this water, so pour it onto that stone trough." Red Riding Hood poured many times, until the huge trough was quite full. Then the wolf sniffed the smell of sausages, and smacked his lips, and wished very much to taste, and at last he stretched his neck too far over, so that he lost his balance and slipped quite off of the roof, right into the great trough beneath, wherein he was drowned, and Little Red Riding Hood ran home in high glee. But no one sorrowed for Mr. Wolf. And that one was Little Red Riding Hood. Never knew the original story had more than one interpretation of the series. Well, there are many different variations of these stories. There are many different variations of the stories depending on who the reader is, honestly. So basically, it all depends on the variation of the story. No, not everyone, not everyone does in this version. It varies. Yeah. Some of the story variations are different, so it's really interesting. Let me see. Hello, Kay Manning! Welcome! We're doing stories today. Let me see. Trying to find... Ah! You all know this one. Let me save the spot here. You all know this one. You all know this one too well. Once upon a time, the wife of a certain rich man fell very ill, and as she felt her end drawing nigh, she called her only daughter to her bedside and said, "My dear child, be pious and good, and then the good God will always protect you, and I will look down upon you from heaven and think of you." Soon afterwards, she closed her eyes and died. Every day the maiden went to her mother's grave and wept over it, and she continued to be good and pious. But when the winter came, the snow made a white covering over the grave, and in the springtime, when the sun had withdrawn this covering, the father took to himself another wife. This wife brought home with her 2 daughters, who were beautiful and fair in face, but treacherous and wicked at heart. Then an unfortunate era began in the poor stepchild's life. "Shall the stupid goose sit in the parlor with us?" said the 2 daughters. "They who would eat bread must earn it. Out with the kitchen maid." So they took off her fine clothes and put upon her an old gray cloak and gave her wooden shoes for her feet. "See how the once proud princess is decked out now," said they, and they led her mockingly into the kitchen. Then she was obligated to work hard from morning to night. And to go out early to fetch water, to make the fire, and cook and scour. The sisters treated her besides with every possible insult, derided her, and shook the peas and beans into the ashes so that she had to pick them out again. At night, when she was tired, she had no bed to lie on, but was forced to sit in the ashes on the hearth. And because she looked dirty through this, they named her Cinderella. Hello, it's Eli. Welcome. One day it happened that the father wanted to go to the fair, so he asked his 2 daughters what he should bring them. "Some beautiful dresses," said one. "Pearls and precious stones," replied the other. "But you, Cinderella," said he, "what will you have?" "The first bough, father, that knocks against your hat on your way homewards. Break it off for me," she replied. So he bought the finest dresses, and the pearls and precious stones for his 2 stepdaughters. And on his return, as he rode through a green thicket, a hazel bough touched his hat, which he broke off and took with him. As soon as he got home, he gave his stepdaughters what they asked for, and to Cinderella he gave the hazel branch. She thanked him very much, and going to her mother's grave, she planted the branch on it, and wept so long that her tears fell and watered it, so that it grew and became a beautiful tree. Thrice a day Cinderella went beneath it to weep and pray, and each time a little white bird flew on the tree. And if she wished aloud, then the little bird threw down to her whatever she wished for. After a time, it fell out that the king appointed a festival, which was to last 3 days, into which all the beautiful maidens in the country were invited, from whom his son was to choose a bride. When the 2 stepdaughters heard that they might also appear, they were very glad, and calling Cinderella, they said, "Comb our hair, brush our shoes, and fasten our buckles, for we are going to the festival at the king's palace." Cinderella obeyed, crying because she wished to go with them to the dance. So she asked her stepmother whether she would she allow her. Let me take a sip. "You, Cinderella," she said, "you are covered with dust and dirt. Will you go to the festival? You have no clothes or shoes, and how can you dance?" But as she urged her request, the mother said at last, "I have now shaken into the ashes a tub full of beans. If you have picked up them again in 2 hours, you shall go." Then the maidens left the room and went out at the back door into the garden and called out, "You tame pigeons and doves, and all you birds of heaven, come and help me gather the good into the tub, and the bad ones you may eat." Presently, at the kitchen window came 2 white pigeons, and after them the doves, and soon all the birds under heaven flew, chirping in and down upon the ashes. Then they began pick, 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 and gathered all the good seeds into the tub, and scarcely an hour had passed when all was completed, and the birds flew away again. Then the maiden took the tub into to the stepmother, rejoicing at the thought that she might now go to the festival. But the stepmother said, "No, Cinderella, you have no clothes, and cannot dance. You will only be a laughing stock." As she began to cry, the stepmother said, "If you can pick up quite clean 2 tubs of beans, which I throw amongst the ashes in 1 hour, you shall accompany them." And she thought to herself, "She will never manage it." As soon as the 2 tubs had been shot into the ashes, Cinderella went out at the back door into the garden and called out as before, "You tame pigeons and doves, and all you birds under heaven, come and help me to gather the good ones, into the tubs, and the bad ones you may eat." Presently at the kitchen window came 2 white pigeons, and after them the doves, and soon all the birds under heaven flew chirping in and down upon the ashes. Then they began peck, 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 and gathered all the good seeds into the tubs, and scarcely had half an hour passed before all was picked up, and off they flew again. The maiden now took the tubs to the stepmother, rejoicing at the thought that she could go to the festival. But the mother said, "It does not help you a bit. You cannot go with us, for you have no clothes and cannot dance. We should be ashamed of you." Thereupon she turned her back upon the maiden and hastened away with her 2 proud daughters. As there was no one at home, Cinderella went to her mother's grave under the hazel tree and said, "Rustle and shake yourself, dear tree, and silver and gold throw down to me." I did not know about the Spanish version. Because in German, the name for Cinderella is Aschenspuntel. So the name in German for Cinderella is Aschenspuntel. Yeah, I really like this story though. It's really good. Cause let me see. Okay, we only got a few pages left. Well, I'm not. Yeah, it's a classic, but I'm not done. Unfortunately. Also, after this one, let me make a poll for you guys. Hold on, really quick. Let me save that spot there really quick. Let me make a poll. Wait, what happened to my screen? Did you pay for your membership? Why not? Or was it gifted to you? Because if it was given to you, you may have exceeded the yeah, probably ran out. Because if it was a gifted memby, yeah, gifted memberships only last a month. You have to pay for it after it runs out. Unfortunately. That's how gifted memberships work. It's like that even on Twitch. Now let me make that poll. Okay, so yeah, if you canceled the old card, the payment purchase probably is canceled. So you may have to link a new card to get another to get the gifted membership back. Oh wait. It is not the 28th for me, unfortunately. But happy birthday, Popita! It's not the 28th, unfortunately, since I live in America. I'm EST. So, unfortunately, it is not the 28th for me yet, but happy birthday! And I'm sorry, why not, baby? I'm sorry. There you go. Yeah, happy early birthday, Popita! Also, I'm moving over a bit, so here we go. I put the poll up, so take your time. And I'll finish reading Cinderella. Then the bird threw down a dress of gold and silver, and silken slippers ornamented with silver. These Cinderella put on in great haste, and then she went to the ball. Her sisters and stepmother did not know her at all, and took her for some foreign princess. As she looked so beautiful in her golden dress of Cinderella, they thought not but that she was sitting at home, picking the beans out of the ashes. Presently, the princess came up to her, and taking her by the hand, led her to the dance. He would not dance with anyone else, and even would not let go of her hand. So that when anyone else asked for her to dance, he said, "She is my partner." They danced till evening, when she wished to go home, but the prince said, "I will go with you, and see you safe," for he wanted to see to whom the maiden belonged. She flew away from him, however, and sprang into the pigeon house, so that the prince waited till the father came, whom he told that the strange maiden had run into the pigeon house. Then the stepmother thought, "Could it be Cinderella?" And they brought an axe wherewith the prince might cut open the door, but no one was found within. And when they came into the house, there lay Cinderella in her dirty clothes among the ashes, and an oil lamp was burned in the chimney, for she had jumped quickly out on the other side of the pigeon house, and had run to the hazel tree, where she had taken off her fine clothes, and laid them on the grave, and the bird had taken them again, and afterwards she had put on the little grey cloak, and seated herself among the ashes in the kitchen. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Papita. You're gonna have to, either use PC or refresh. For some reason, my mobile device works for the, polls. Try refreshing and updating your YouTube. That may be how it's gonna have to work, because I've noticed that, it updated my YouTube, and now my mobile polls work on my phone. So it may be that. I would try doing that just in case. That may be your best option. I may also make another waiting room if we do another game. So the next day, when the festival was renewed, and her stepmother and her sisters had set out again, Cinderella went to the hazel tree and sang as before. "Rustle and shake yourself, dear tree, and a silver and gold throw down to me." I have to straighten up my hair. Then the bird threw down a much more splendid dress than the former, and when the maiden appeared at the ball, everyone was astonished at her beauty. The prince, however, who had waited till she came, took her hand, and would dance with no one else. And if others came and asked, he replied as before, "She is my partner." As soon as the evening came, she wished to depart, and the prince followed her, wanting to see into whose house she went. But she sprang away from him, and ran into the garden behind the house. Therein stood a fine large tree, on which hung the most beautiful pears, and the boughs rustled as though a squirrel was among them, but the prince could not see whence the noise proceeded. He waited, however, till the father came, and told him, "The strange maiden has escaped from me, and I think she has climbed up into the tree." The father thought to himself, "Can it be Cinderella?" And taking an axe, he chopped down the tree, and there was no one on it. When they went into the kitchen, there lay Cinderella among the ashes, as before, for she had sprung down on the other side of the tree, and having taken her beautiful clothes again, to the bird upon the hazel tree, she had put on once more her old gray cloak. The third day, when her stepmother and her sisters had set out, Cinderella went again to her mother's grave and said, "Rustle and shake yourself, dear tree, and silver and gold throw down to me." Then the bird threw down to her a dress, which was more splendid and glittering than she had ever had before, and the slippers were all golden. When she arrived at the ball, they knew not what to say for wonderment, and the prince had danced with her, alone as at first, and replied to everyone who asked her hand, "She is my partner." As soon as evening came, she wished to go, and as the prince followed her, she ran away so quickly that he could not overtake her. But he had contrived a stratagem, and spread the whole way with pitch, so that it happened as the maiden ran that her left slipper came off. The prince took it up and saw it was small and graceful and quite golden. So the following morning he went with it to the father and said, "My bride shall be no other than she whose foot is My bride shall be no other than she whose foot fits this golden slipper." The two sisters were glad of this, for they had beautiful feet, and the elder went with it to her chamber to try it on, while her mother stood by. She could not, however, get her great toe into it, and the toe was much too small, and the shoe was much too small. Pardon me. But the mother, reaching a knife, said, "Cut off your toe, for if you are queen, you need not go any longer on foot." The maiden cut it off, and squeezed her foot into the shoe, and concealing the pain she felt, went down to the prince. Then he placed her as his bride upon his horse, and rode off. And as they passed by the grave, there sat two little doves upon the hazel tree, singing, "Peep, backwards, peep, backwards, peep. There's blood upon the shoe. The shoe's too small, and she behind is not the bride for you." Then the prince looked behind and saw the blood flowing, so he turned his horse back and took the false bride home again, saying she was not the right one. Then the other sister must need fit on the shoe, so she went to her chamber and got her toes nicely into the shoe, but the heel was too large. The mother, reaching for a knife, said, "Cut a piece off your heel, for when you become queen, you need not go any longer on foot." She cut a piece of her heel, squeezed her foot into the shoe, and, concealing the pain she felt, went down to the prince. Then he put her upon his horse as his bride and rode off. And as they passed the hazel tree, there sat two little doves who sang, "Backwards, peep, backwards, peep. There's blood upon the shoe. The shoe's too small, and she behind is not the bride for you." Then he looked behind and saw the blood trickling from her shoe, and that the stocking was dyed quite red. So he turned his horse back and took the false bride home again, saying, "Neither of these maidens is the right maiden. Have you no other daughter?" "No," replied the father, "except a little Cinderella, daughter of my deceased wife, who cannot possibly be the bride." The prince asked that she might be fetched, but the stepmother said, "Oh, ask that she might be fetched." "Oh no, she is much too dirty. I dare not let her be seen." But the prince would have his way, so Cinderella was called, and she, first washing her hands and face, went in, curtsied to the prince, who gave her the golden shoe. Cinderella sat on a stool, and taking off her heavy wooden shoes, put on the slipper, which fitted her to a shade. And as she stood up, the prince looked in her face, and recognizing the beautiful maiden with whom he had danced, exclaimed, "This is my rightful bride." The stepmother and two sisters were amazed and white with rage. But the prince took Cinderella upon his horse and rode away. And as they came to the hazel tree, the two little white doves sang, backwards peep, there's no blood on the shoe. So it fits so nice, and she behind is the true bride for you. And as they finished, they flew down and lightened upon Cinderella's shoulders. And there they remained, and the wedding was celebrated with great festivities, and the two sisters were smitten with blindness as a punishment for their wickedness. And that was Cinderella. My little nosy. My little nose was itchy. I'm just waiting for you guys to decide which should we do. Another story or read one last story, then a game. Because I see that there are 18 viewers. And there's only 10 votes. We need 8 more, guys. Break the tie. Break the tie so that we may know what we should do now. Because honestly, I already read like 4 stories. I already read like 4. I will have to make another waiting room if we do, I will have to make another waiting room. Oh my god. Thank you for subscribing! Thank you! It's a joke, LOL. Blind with... Yeah... Again, the interpretation is up to the narrator. Read another story. You want me to read another one? You guys really love these stories. I'm really happy. These are some of my favorite. You know what? Maybe next time I should read Alice in Wonderland. Oh, but if I read Alice in Wonderland, it's gonna have to be in chapters. Or Aesop's Fables. These stories have been interesting. I really like them. Listening to me read is so comfy. Yay! I like reading. Reading is power. Read a book. Honestly, read a book. They're good for you. Seriously. How long is Alice in Wonderland? Let me go get my book really quick. I will be back. Let me go get the book out of my bookshelf. Hold on. Let me see. Let's see. So, the Alice in Wonderland book. It's about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 chapters. The Alice in Wonderland book that I have is about 12 chapters long. So, it may take a while. We may have to do like 6 chapters or so. Because reading this is kind of long. But I really love this book. Alice in Wonderland is one of my favorite stories. And it has the original artwork in this book and everything. It also has Through the Looking Glass. Oh, it has Through the Looking Glass, too. Let me see. Let's hold this crown. Yeah, it also has Through the Looking Glass, which is also another 12 chapters. How different is the book from Disney's retell? So, the original book has characters that Disney did not use in the animated version. One of them being the Duchess. So, originally Disney had the, the Queen of Hearts, Alice, the white hair, the Tweedles, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the March Hare, the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat, but they didn't have the Duchess or, the Mock Turtle. They didn't have that until, they live-actioned it. I don't know why. But also, they did have the Walrus and the Carpenter, which is part of the story that the Tweedles were telling. Yeah. Because, I mean, they're kind of important to the story of Alice in Wonderland. I'm not gonna lie. They are very, needed to that story. For context. So. I also have the book Aesop's Fables. Aesop's Fables are basically like life lesson stories. The Walrus was also in the Disney version too. I remember the animated version referring to. Yeah, I'm saying that the Walrus and the Carpenter were also in the Disney adaptation. So the characters that were in Disney's animated adaptation were Alice. Hello, John. Were also Alice, Dinah, her cat, the White Rabbit, the Door, Tweedledee, Tweedledum, the Mr. Dodo, the Caterpillar. Basically, like, Disney chose certain characters, but excluded the Duchess and the Mock Turtle. So, they kind of got rid of some of the characters there. I think it was to save on time. I think it was just to save on time. Also, you guys really want me to read another story, don't you? Read another story is in the lead. Yes, I know of Aesop's Fables. They are life lessons. The stories are fun. They're very fun, but they are long. They're long. They're very long. Let me update the list. Hold on. Let me do this. There we go. I will do a fast one. Yeah, I'll probably do a fast one. How about I read one of Aesop's Fables? How about I read some Aesop's Fables for tonight, too? As a way of life lessons. since they're relatively short. I'll also have to go get me something to drink because my throat is getting parched. Because my throat's kind of getting parched. I'm just waiting for you guys to finish up the vote. Because I want democracy to decide. Because I want to cater to my audience, in all honesty. I'm just letting you guys choose. Well, until you guys finish voting, I'll probably go and get me something to drink. So I can stay hydrated and keep reading you guys the stories. If that's okay. Because I do want you guys to finish out the voting. I don't want to close it off yet, so. Let me go get something to drink. And I will be back. Okay? I'll be right back. I see you soon. I just gotta go get me a doinky. Bye. BRB. I'm back. I got me my drink. I only noticed now that I seem to have been gifted membership. Yee. I forgot who it was that gifted you that membership, but thank you to whoever gifted Saddest his membership. Also, you guys are wanting another story. Let me, change this, then. I'll probably, as much as I do love the Brothers Grimm, I'll have to save more Brothers Grimm for another day. Don't want to overdo the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. Let's do. Because I'm seeing that you all want another story. I'm seeing y'all want more stories tonight. It's so cute. Oh, wow. A game of my choosing is... Wow. Alright. Wow. Yes. Hi, Garrett! Hello! You guys are trying so hard to get another story. But apparently, a game of my choosing is also in the lead. You guys really like the stories, don't you? Come on, chat. I know you can do it. I guess... Ooh, a game of my choosing! Well, okay, so you know what I'm gonna do? I'll have to make another waiting room, if that's the case. Yeah, someone broke the balance! No, they're not tied. A game of my choosing is now here. So. I will have to make another waiting room, though, because I probably don't want to make the waiting room. Yeah, I kind of don't want to make the same room. I don't want to make the same stream for a game. So if that's okay, I may make another waiting room if that's the case. Just in case. Let me make another waiting room. YouTube Studio. Hello, Cadence! Hello, Cadence, bye-bye. I wanted to learn your name. They're tied again! They're tied again? How are you doing today, Cadence? You doing okay, honey? Take your time, guys. I'll try to make a waiting room for you guys. If we do, I'm gonna make a waiting room. And if not, I'll just delete. Someone likes ties. Comfy stories. No, don't argue in my chat, please. No, I can't handle it. No. This might... Oh, it's okay, John. Take your time. Don't worry. I still love it when you're here. It's okay. I still love you being here. Yes. I still love you being here. Let me see what game to do. I'm just trying to see which game I should play if we do end up doing something else after this. Because I'm still waiting for you guys to decide. Let me see. You know what? I'm gonna make another waiting room just in case. Ah! Dang it. There we go. 18 votes, 18 viewers. Might take a minute. Yeah. I say give people the time. I'm gonna let people have the time. I may read an Aesop fable while we wait. Aye. Yee. There we go. Go. Let me get things. Let me make another waiting room for you guys, and then we should be good. Just dropping in to lurk for a bit and saying, "Ah, it's okay, Garrett. I don't mind if you're a lurker or anything. As long as you're having fun, I'm happy." There we go. I'm just letting chat decide. 19 votes! You guys are so cute. How was my Christmas? It was good. You want stories? Why not? Why not? Don't be like that, why not? Don't put up a pout. You better not pout and you better not cry. Games. Yeah. Why not? 19 votes is still tied. Exciting developments. I don't know about that. 20 votes. 20 votes. How is this possible? Akumi. Hey, Akumi. Well, wait, how are you not modded? Akumi, how are you not modded? How are you not modded on my channel? We're just trying to decide on what I should do next. Some people are torn between different things right now, Akumi. Okay, by the way, how's it been? I keep missing your streams because of... No! Time zones! I hate time zones. But it's okay. Let me put this at 10. Done. There we go. There we go. Okay, guys, I got the waiting room set up for the next stream. So, oh no, Bryant, I don't have a command yet for Akumi. Let me get Akumi's channel. Let me make one for Akumi. Why not has... I got surprised. I got surprised. There you go, Bryant. Akumi should be ready. Try it now. Let me see. Let me see what Aesop fable I should read. Let's see. Ooh, this one's good. This one's good. This one is good. Okay. Let me update this. Propertize. There we go. The tortoise and the hare. Also, let me double check something. Okay. So, let me see. Lie Raid. Thank you for the raid, Lie. How was your stream? Let's see. This is the tortoise and the hare, guys. The hare one day laughed at the tortoise for his short feet, slowness, and awkwardness. Though you may be swift as the wind, replied the tortoise, good-naturedly, I can beat you in a race. The hare looked on the challenge as a great joke, but consented to a trial of speed, and the fox was selected to act as umpire and hold the stakes. The rivals started, and the hare, of course, soon left the tortoise far behind, having reached midway to the goal. He began to play about, nibble the young herbage, and amuse herself in many ways. The day began. The day being warm, she even thought she would take a little nap in a shady spot, for she thought that if the tortoise should pass her while she slept, she could easily overtake him again. Before he reached the end, the tortoise meanwhile plodded on, unwavering and unresting, straight towards the goal. The hare, having overslept herself, started up from her nap and was surprised to find that the tortoise was nowhere in sight. Off she went at full speed, but on reaching the winning post, found that the tortoise was already there, waiting for her arrival. Moral of the story: slow and steady wins the race. The moral of the story is slow and steady wins the race. Oh yeah, I remember. Lai was playing Little Nightmares. Let me see. Let's see. What other... This one's good. This one's a good story. Mr. Tortoise made a programmer move. I suppose he did. I suppose he did. But still, you shouldn't think that just because you're fast, you'll win. Now let's see. Let me take a sip. A formal solemn owl had for many years made his habitation in a grove amongst the ruins of an old monastery, and had pored so often over some moldy manuscripts, the stupid relics of a monkish library, that he knew infected with pride and pedantry of the place. Mistaking gravity for wisdom, he would sit whole days with his eyes half shut, fancying himself profoundly learned. It happened as he sat one evening, half buried in meditation and half in sleep, that a nightingale, unluckily perching near him, began her melodious lays and started from his reverie, and with a horrid screech interrupted her song. "Begone!" he cried. "Thou impertinent minstrel, nor distract with noisy dissonance my sublime contemplations, and know, vain songster, that harmony consists in truth alone, which is gained by laborious study, and not in languishing notes, fit only to soothe the ear of a love-sick maid." "Conceited pedant," returned the nightingale, whose wisdom lies only in the feathers that muffled up my unmeaning face. "Music is a natural and rational entertainment, and thought, not adapt to the ears of an owl, has ever been relished and admired by the best formed minds." So the lesson of this story is, it is natural for a pedant to despise those arts that polish our manners and that would extirpate pedantry. So, that was The Owl and the Nightingale. Let me see. This one is very short. Like, very, very short. Let me do this. Ah, thank you. I try to make a lot of my streams very relaxing and cozy. A man and a lion once argued together as to which belonged to the nobler race. The man called the attention of the lion to a monument on which was sculpted a man striding over a fallen lion. "That proves nothing at all," said the lion. "If a lion had been the carver, he would have made the lion striding over the man." Moral: men are but witnesses in their own cause. Let's see. I'm trying to find the one that I know of. I know too many Aesop's fables. I'm trying to find another one of Aesop's fables. This book is really big. Ah, this one's good. The Fatal Courtship. I will be going to sleep to feel better. Have fun, Kendra. Thank you for always thinking of me. Aww. Have a good night. Ooh. Have a good night, Akumi. Sleep tight. Have fun at the museum. And then this one is... There we go. See ya! This one is The Fatal Courtship. A lion whom a mouse had freed from a snare was so grateful to the mouse that he told him to name what he most desired, and he should have his wish. The mouse, fired with ambition, said, "I desire the hand of your daughter in marriage." This the lion good-naturedly gave him, and called the young lioness to come that way. She did so, and rushed up so heedlessly that she did not see her small suitor, but placed her paw on him and crushed him to death. Moral of the story: bad wishing makes bad getting. Yes. Be that a lesson. Bad wishing leads to bad getting, guys. Be careful. Basically, it's the saying of, be careful what thy wish for. Is basically what it is. The Swallow and the Serpent. This one's good. These are good life lessons. These are really good life lessons, honestly. There we go. Yep, words to live by. Be careful what you wish for. The Swallow and the Serpent. A swallow returning from abroad, and ever fond of dwelling with men, built herself a nest in the wall of a court of justice, and there hatched 7 young birds. A serpent gliding past the nest from its hole in the wall ate up the young unfledged nestlings. The swallow, finding her nest empty, lamented greatly, and exclaimed, "Woe to me, a stranger, that in this place where all others' rights are protected, I alone should suffer wrong." This one is, moral of the story, do not place too great confidence in outward form. Basically, don't place too much confidence in something that is, well, you know, deceiving to the eye. Let me see, what other life lessons are there? Let me see if there's an other. I'm trying to find any other. This one's good. The Miser. This one's really good. Let me update that. I'm gonna update the thing. Hold on. A miser once buried all his money in the earth at the foot of a tree, and went every day to feast upon the sight of his treasure. A thievish fellow who had watched him at his occupation came one night and carried off the gold. The next day, the miser, finding his treasure gone, tore his clothes and filled the air with his lamentations. A neighbor, hearing his outcry and learning the cause, said, "Pray, do not grieve so, but go, get a stone, place it in the hole, and fancy it is your gold. It will be of quite as much service as the money was." Moral of your story: wealth not used is of no value at all. Basically, if you don't learn how to spend your wealth a little bit, it's not worth anything. It's better to use some of your wealth than squander the wealth. If you know what they mean. Also, I need to edit this. Hold on. Spend your money, enjoy yourself, live a little. Exactly. Basically, you gotta live a little. Because if you don't live a little bit, then what good is the money? It's not good at all. I mean, you gotta learn to live a little bit. Because if you don't, what good is it? Spend all your money on your... No! Do not spend all your money! That is... No. That's not the case. Spend it... Yes, spend it wisely. As Faye Papa once told me, Faye Papa once told me, it's okay... But no! Don't spend it on your Oshi. Guys, I don't even have merch yet. I don't even have merch yet. Don't worry, I learned my lesson the hard way. Pat, pat. Pat, pat. Why do I feel like an aunt just telling you guys these stories? I feel like I'm an aunt telling my nieces and nephews a story. And I don't even have nieces or nephews. Just gives more time to say. Oh, God. Let me get a sip. Oh, no. I already get called Auntie Kendra by my VTuber brothers chat. Now you're doing it. I already get called Auntie Kendra by my VTuber siblings chat. Also, I'm gonna end the poll now because it's been up for 53 minutes and I'm still reading. You all are getting another story anyway. But I'll add another poll for what we do after. Because I do have the waiting room up for 10 o'clock. Bam. There you go. I made a poll. I'll read another one. We got a good another few minutes. Let me see. I'm looking for another one. Ah! These are interesting. Ooh, the moon and her mother. Princess and closely, I won't say this twice. Holes running you There we go. There we go. This one's interesting. The moon and her mother. The moon once begged her mother to make her a gown. "How can I?" she replied. There's no fitting your figure. At one time, you're a new moon. At another, you're a full moon. And between whiles you're neither one nor the other. The moral of this story is, there is no pleasing the fickle. Basically, you can't please a fickle person. Unfortunately. Ah, the hunter and the woodsman. Let me get this one. The hunter and the woodsman. Yes, the moon was the fickle one in the story. Because it's like she couldn't decide on her form, basically. That's what they were getting at. This is just Auntie Kendra teaching you guys life lessons at this point. No problem. A hunter was searching in the forest for the tracks of a lion, and catching sight presently of a woodsman engaged in felling a tree. He went up to him and asked him if he had noticed a lion's footprints anywhere about, or if he knew where his den was. The woodsman answered, "If you will come with me, I will show you the lion himself." The hunter turned pale with fear, and his teeth chattered as he replied, "Oh, I'm not looking for the lion. Thanks. But only for his tracks." I am not an elf. I am a fairy. I am not an elf, I'm a fairy. I'm a particular type of fairy called a Liananshi. So the moral of this story was, what some seek in sport, they would shun in earnest. So what a Liananshi is, it's translated to Irish Gaelic for fairy lover. So, I'll go over my lore story later. When I can make my lore video. So, I'm still waiting to do all that, cuz I got a lot of stuff in the works. So, yeah. Aw, thank you. Flatterer. Oh, this one's good. This one's good. This one's funny. Let me increase the size of this just a bit. There we go. Next time play, yeah, wait, if you're a fairy, do you... So, I am actually a late bloomer when it comes to my wings. Plus, I'm a late bloomer, so my wings have not come in yet. So, yeah. see. Trying to get the YouTube control panel back on my... Go. So... Yay. Now, back to the story. I'm 327 now. So this story is the ship, the ape and the dolphin. A ship wrecked off the coast of Greece had on board a large ape, kept for the diversion of the sailors. The ship went down, and the ape, with most of the crew, was left struggling in the water. Dolphins are said to have a great friendship for man, and one of these fishies, taking the ape for a man, came under him, and supporting him on his back, swam with him to the mouth of the harbor of Parisius. "In what part of Greece do you live?" demanded the dolphin. "I am an Athenian," said the ape. "Oh, then you know Parisius, of course," said the dolphin. "No, Parisius," said the ape, not wishing to appear ignorant to the dolphin. "I should rather think I did. Why, my father and he are first cousins." Thereupon the dolphin, finding that he was supporting an impostor, slipped from beneath his legs and left him to face his fate. Moral of the story is the liar should take care to be well informed. Yep, there's a story called The Swallow and the Serpent. This one will be... By the way, I'm gonna read maybe two more. I'll read two more of Aesop's Fables, but let me get my Switch ready for when we move over to the other stream. Is that okay with you guys? Let me get my Switch set up. Because I do want to get everything set up right away. I just gotta get it. There we go. No, that's okay, Conway. I'm good. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. There we go. So, here we go. This one is Fortune and the Boy. Here we go. This one is Fortune and the Boy. Let me get a sip really quick. Refreshing. A little boy, quite tired out with play, stretched out and fell sound asleep, close to the edge of a deep well. Fortune came by and gently waking him said, "My dear boy, believe me, I have saved your life. If you had fallen in, everybody would have laid the blame on me. But tell me truly, now, would the fault have been yours or mine?" Lay the blame where it belongs is the moral of the story. Basically, lay the blame where it lies, upon the person. Let's see. Trying to find another one. A majority of the Aesop's fables are mainly short. So basically, Aesop's fables are very short, little life lessons given to people. It's just basically something to ponder. Let's see. Trying to find one other one. Here's one. Do people read? Unfortunately, a majority of people try to read stuff that is within the public domain because certain light novels in this day and age are under copyright. So unfortunately, not always, because light novels unfortunately are not within the public domain. So you have to find old works. Yep, copyrights. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to find books that are within the public domain. Like Dorian Gray is within the public domain. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass are in the public domain. Homer's The Odyssey is within the public domain. Let me also look up. Let me check. Okay, yep. Dante's Inferno is also within the public domain. So Dante's Inferno, Purgatorio, and oh yeah, I think Winnie the Pooh is. Yeah, that's what sponsorship would be. Sponsorship would mean that it's not within the public, that is okay for you to read. So let me read this one and then we'll skip over. Hercules and the Wagoner. As a wagoner was driving his team through a miry lane, the wheels stuck fast in the clay, and the horses could get on no further. The man dropped on his knees and began to cry and praying to Hercules with all his might to come and help him. "Lazy fellow," said Hercules, "get up and stir yourself. Whip your horses stoutly, and put your shoulder to the wheel. If you want my help, then you shall have it." And the lesson is, heaven help those who help themselves. Basically, you have to learn how to help yourself before you ask for the help of others. And that is that for those stories. Let me turn on my BGM and then... So, I think that one will be the last story for that one. Let me put the raid into the other stream for you guys, and we'll go over to the other stream since... Let me... And we'll go to the next waiting room. Let me put the redirect in that one. Because it is almost time to change. Yeah, I'll see y'all there. Let me just put the redirect in. And I'll see you over at the other stream. Please behave. I'll see you guys there in a minute. See you then.